politics of fear and hate are wrong. We love you and politics of compassion
But America,
and love are right.
we are not going back.
Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of Raised Red Living Blue. I'm Sloane Roden and I'm so excited about this week. We have a great guest. We are joined by Ashleigh Dunham and a repeat guest of the pod, English Layman.
Hi.
Ashleigh is running for the Alabama Supreme Court as an Associate Justice.
Yes.
Okay, tell us a little bit, let's just start with you. Tell us your background. Where did you grow up? This podcast is Raised Red Living Blue because Jason and I, my co-host, side note, we have been kind of going back and forth right now. He'll take the reins some, I'll take the reins now, and we're finding out that it gives the other person time to step away and find that quiet and peace, and it makes us happier. And in this partnership, we're finding it's working really well for us. But we were both raised Republican, and at different ages in adulthood, we found our way to, I would say, the good side of the Democrats. So I don't know if that tracks with you, or if that's your path, or just kind of where'd you grow up? How'd you grow up? How was politics? We talk about religion a kind of good bit in here if you want to talk about that at all. How did that, feed into your life? And then, how did you get involved politically, personally, and then choosing to run?
Oh, well, so I'm originally from Madison, Alabama, which is up north, a suburb of Huntsville. My parents had me right out of high school. So I was the oops baby in high school. And then 13 years and 15 years later, I had two brothers that were born. My parents are not Republican at all.
Oh, amazing.
They are sweet, very caring people. My mom just last week gave $100 to some lady at the grocery store because she couldn't afford to get snacks for her kid. She's like, I have to buy diapers. My mom's like, here's $100. Go get that baby some Gushers, whatever. So my dad is basically a little bitty Bernie. He's such a curmudgeon and just so angry all the time.
All I can think of is the meme
That is
sitting
my
on the Capitol steps.
That's my dad, so angry all the time.
Bernie with his mittens.
Yes, that's him. I mean, he literally sits there and plays World of Warcraft. He works for NASA. He plays World of Warcraft. And he just sits there with these little cardigans and just plays this World of Warcraft all the time. So that's my dad. My granddaddy, on the other hand, my dad's dad, and my mom's parents, they are very, very Republican and very much my granddad was flying a Trump flag in his front yard until the neighbors were like, hey, that's kind of tacky, take it down. And he lives in a really nice, beautiful community. So that was what I grew from. But we didn't really talk that much about politics growing up. I remember in fourth grade having Clinton stickers on my Trolls backpack and loving it. And then watching him talk about, I did not have sex with that lady and all that stuff. So I remember that as a fourth grader. As far as getting into politics, my major in college was political science. But I never really wanted to be a politician. I was just really into government stuff. Yeah. Really into it, really into history. Knew I wanted to be a lawyer since I was 7. It was either Madonna or a lawyer.
Oh.
So I went. I know. But I went with being a lawyer instead. My mom kept telling me.
Probably the safer bet.
Honestly, yeah. I don't think my knees could take being Madonna. I saw her Super Bowl show. It was dangerous. So I ended up doing, I was well, let's do the legal path. And I went through, minored in French and business, and went straight in. I wanted to be an international adoption attorney. Okay. And then the Hague Convention passed, and that whole market just went away. And so I started doing divorce, child custody, adoptions. And then at some point, found out in the middle of everything while I was super stressed out, doing all these domestic violence cases and having these huge, awful custody cases that I was maybe internalizing some of the stress. And I think my fertility took a hit with all that stress. So I went through about 5 years of trying to have a kid. And I remember trying a case, going the next day to have an IUI, finishing my IUI and going back to court and sitting in court and having to try a case for people, a dad trying to get custody of his children. Yeah. So at that point, I went through all of that. And then.
How old were you when all this was happening?
So my husband and I got married at 30. Okay. And I immediately was going on my birth control. We're going to have a baby. Yeah. And he was like, what? And I was like, yep. 2 weeks in, we came back from our honeymoon. I was like, going off of it. 90% of your eggs are gone. We're having a kid. So 5 years later, we get a kid.
Okay.
So we ended up having to leave Alabama in order to get adequate health care. I went through IVF twice in Alabama, got no embryos. So we ended up having to leave. My doctor was like, my lab's not big enough. You need a bigger lab. And this is a fun thing that a lot of people don't know.
Yeah.
With women, they can't test your eggs. They can test a man's sperm and see if there's any issues. But with women, they can't. And so they'll just say, we don't know what it is, but it's probably you. And so they just put it back on the woman. Oh. And so I felt like my body was failing me. So in 2020, I started interviewing other clinics and found a clinic in Oregon.
Oregon.
Yeah. And flew across the country on Thanksgiving Day in the middle of the pandemic in 2020. Left my entire family.
Yeah.
Had Turkish food from a food truck. So I still had turkey on
sounds
Thanksgiving
amazing.
Day. It was really great. And ended up getting 3 embryos in Oregon. So we have 1 kid. I'm terrified at this point to transfer my embryos to the state of Alabama and transfer them into my body because Alabama is just not friendly to women.
Okay, when you began your research of looking for fertility clinics outside the state of Alabama, what was your criteria as you were looking outside of the state?
Honestly, I just wanted to see who I was vibing with. I mean, I talked to...
It's not a bad way to go.
No, and I had been through several clinics in Alabama. So I went to ART initially. They messed up everything with my husband's test. Then we tried AFS, and there were some issues there. They were really busy going through some transitions. Wasn't a fan at that time for me. Then I went to ACRM, which it used to be something else. That's the doctor who was like, I'm not going to keep taking your money. You need a bigger clinic. And so then at that point, I tried 3 different clinics. And then at that point, I was like, okay, I talked to one of his friends. So it was Dr. Long. I talked to Dr. Long's friend, Yazigi, he's in Boston.
Okay.
And he got on the phone 15 minutes, basically told me I needed an egg donor, that there was no way I could have a child with my own eggs, and didn't read the 15 pages of paperwork that I put together. And by the way, at that time, I was charging $300 an hour. 15 pages of paperwork, that was a lot of money I was losing. So I'm like, you didn't even read my paperwork, dude. So I then talked to Dr. Hesla in Oregon, and he sat there for an hour and a half with me on the phone, told me that none of it made any sense.
Okay.
Told me I needed additional testing, that it didn't make sense for me to go, the whole idea of me having to have an egg donor didn't make sense.
Oh, okay.
And so then he went through all my paperwork, and he was like, they're taking your eggs too early. So that was the problem the whole time. My eggs weren't mature enough.
A day too early? Or is that what that means? Prior to when they
Mature.
So that's a day.
It could be a day or two, but it ended up being every time that I did a cycle here, they were taking them one of the first, because they batch everybody. They were taking me one of the first people. But when I went to Oregon, it was I was going on day 14, day 15, day 16. It was they kept pushing it on and pushing it on.
Well, and they also don't do the weekends, right?
Some of them here do.
Okay, my experience is they didn't do anything on the weekend. So they'd be like, well, you need to do a trigger shot on this day. And I was like, well, I get that. I understand that they don't work on the weekends, but my body might be on the weekend. So I always wondered
that's where we are in Alabama. It's not adequate.
I was like, what's the plan? And I remember looking it up, and they were like, oh, there are clinics that are open.
Yeah.
They're reminded me of the vet.
Well, that's what I was worried about when I went there.
Because my vet has 9 to 5 hour or whatever.
And after that, you have to go to...
But there's a clinic
essentially
available, and there's one guy on staff that's there a few hours on Saturday if you need something. They make it work.
Yeah.
Because sometimes the dog needs something on the fucking weekend.
In Oregon, they go to you. So if your cycle is showing that you need to go in there, you go in and you get your any day it is. Yeah. I was even on Thanksgiving Day, I was like, what if I come up there and it's Thanksgiving? Because I started freaking out looking at everything. What if I start and I need to have my egg retrieval on Thanksgiving? They're like, you can do that.
Side note, when you say that they batch you, what does that mean?
She said that.
You said that.
I don't know.
Yeah. Okay. Yep. They put everybody on birth control and match their cycles. Force your bodies into a certain cycle, and then they batch you in there.
So they can assembly line.
Yeah.
Okay, we're gonna have everybody do it on this day, and then all of y'all are gonna reach at this phase on this day. So we're gonna do this thing.
Does every clinic do that?
Every clinic in the state of Alabama at the time that I was having my stuff done, yes. I don't know if they still do it that way. It wasn't individualized. But the clinic that I went to in Oregon, the doctors, they would do your tests, they would look at everything, and then the evenings or that late afternoon, they all got together, talked about your findings, like how many follicles you had, what your blood work looked like, and they would tell you what medications you needed and how you needed to adjust your medication. When I was doing it here,
it was so much more, not so much more, it was actually specialized and individualized to you and what's happening in your body.
yes,
I mean, that's how it fucking should be.
it is.
Wow, that is wild.
Yeah. So I went from getting, it's like in Alabama, I got 4 eggs, 0 embryos, 2 eggs, 0 embryos. And then when I went to Oregon, I ended up with 12 eggs, 9 were mature, 5 embryos, 4 day 5 embryos, 3 genetically normal embryos.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah. And Arya was the first transfer. So she has 2 sisters
Just
on ice, just
Chilling.
hanging out. Yeah.
like a martini.
Yep.
Or caviar. I like that reference better.
I call them my little snowflakes because
Yeah.
I did frozen parties to raise money for IVF medications.
Okay, so you flew out to Oregon yourself,
Yep.
alone?
With my husband.
With your husband. Okay.
I needed his sperm. Yeah.
It needs to be fresh.
Okay. Y'all, it does. Okay, here's like one thing where being in a same-sex relationship differs, because like I can't just like take my partner with me. So there's like still a time where people are like, yeah, we're trying to get pregnant. And I'm like, what do you mean? It's been like 14 years at this time. I forget how things work.
We'll remind you. I just want to traumatize you. Don't worry.
Please don't. I'm good.
It's fine.
So, okay, so I feel like I had to take you through.
It's okay.
I needed a sperm.
And you can't put it on ice, really. Like you can, but it's not as
but
viable.
it's not as effective. Yeah.
Okay. Okay, so you.
So it's really upsetting. Do you want? So like even in like they have to like literally they have like little rooms.
Yeah.
That are like Robbie says like closets that they
Yeah.
basically. No, it's so and they're like okay, go to and so we went in the morning. I went into the room and it was like his numbers were 0. And they were like, do you want to like go get lunch and come back or something? Because we've already done all of this stuff. Well, normally it doesn't, but I'm like, I'm super manifester. So we left and came back and he had to go in the room again. And you're just sitting there like.
Well, and not only that, but it's like.
And then it did work. We did get more numbers.
Oh, good.
I was like, and I told the
What'd y'all
girl,
have
she was
to
like,
eat?
this is so weird. She was like, this is so weird that like, normally it's like the first one of the day and then it's kind of dead for the rest of the day. And I was like, I'm a witch. Like, I don't know what to tell you.
But for real, like, what'd you have to eat?
We went to the smoothie bowl place. He didn't eat anything, I don't think. He was all cranky and upset. He was like, oh, because you do all of this stuff to lead up to it. Yeah. And if you don't get any sperm, it's like a big bummer.
Yeah.
And not only that, I mean, it's like that little room doesn't have anything. Like you see in all the movies and stuff that it has like porn and all that stuff. And my husband's like, no.
They have phones now.
I envision like 80s porn. Like not good stuff, but like
There's nothing. It is
like Eastern
a
Bloc.
closet
It's a closet.
God, that.
and a cup.
And if they don't do it, they get the needle.
Iconic.
So Dr. Long told
that made me really
that
happy.
if he can't, they'll stick a needle down there and pull it out. And I was like, so for the rest of the time that we were going through it, I was like, he would say something to me, I'd be like, you're gonna get the needle.
I'm sad. No, I love. I live, I love.
Yeah.
Wow, that made me really happy.
I mean, I had to get the needle.
No, I love this.
I know,
Right.
That's how they get the eggs.
Yeah.
And by the way, in Alabama, they don't give you sedation.
Why?
I don't know.
What do they do?
They give you Valium, so you're just kind of like chill about it. But it hurts because it goes through your vaginal wall into your ovary.
There we go.
I thought it was like a surgical procedure. I mean, I know they don't cut you open, but I mean,
Yeah. That's why in every other state you get sedation.
literally every other state.
Yeah. There's a whole podcast on the women at Yale who were going through.
I was looking for my phone and
I've
it's always
ignored
up there.
it on purpose, that podcast I saw.
Yeah.
but-
They're going through egg retrievals and they're like, this nurse was stealing the pain medication that they gave to them when they were going through egg retrievals.
Jesus fucking Christ.
And they're suing because of it. And I was like, well, it must be nice that they even had the opportunity to get that because we didn't. Yeah.
I asked for Advil during an IUI because it was like, she was like, oh, this one's kind of tricky. Like, I was like, is it tricky? And it was like, they're not all painful. I mean,
No.
the two of them I did weren't. But one of them was like, oh, like, what's happening? And I was like, do you have like some Advil or something? And she was like, no.
I was like, it's a doctor's office.
It's a medical clinic. What are you talking about?
Yeah. 1 out of 6 of mine hurt.
I would like
it's not common,
honestly,
but,
I would like Advil during a pap smear.
Yeah.
To be honest. Okay, so y'all go to Oregon on Thanksgiving. How long do you stay? Are y'all like in an Airbnb? Or you hold up in a hotel room? Yeah, what is that experience?
So we were there for about 14 days.
Okay.
And we were in a hotel. And then after we had the egg retrieval, after that, we basically just kind of packed up and went to my best friend from high school. She lived in Seattle. So we drove an hour and went and hung out with her, like waiting to hear everything that we got. So the first thing, we get is how many eggs did we get? How many, did we get any fertilized embryos? And then they call you with results like in 3 days, how many do you have? And then in 5 days. And for me, when I didn't have any embryos, like that was so rare. The first 2 times it was awful. So I had some major issues there. So waiting on that 5-day call on whether or not I got any embryos was horrendous for me. And then waiting on the genetically, like if they're genetically normal or not, that was also like terrifying for me.
Right.
So the first time, like I was waiting on the day 5 call and I got those, I was like sitting at my computer and I had like a Bible verse like on the computer, like just sitting there. And it was like, it was there for a long time until it like faded completely. But I had that right there and it was like, I will not fear and all this. And so I really liked having that there. And then I actually got the genetic call for the 3 genetically normal ones when I was watching my church's Christmas video, because my church does this like really weird Christmas video every year. And they did one like pretending like NSYNC. It was really strange, but I loved it because I'm a huge NSYNC fan. And
They're trying to appeal to the kids these days.
It like sounds like those
Like the
videos
most
that like go
boomer-coded
around
thing I've
at
ever
Christmas. That's like, they won't feed the poor, but we're going to have
Right.
Cirque du Soleil.
Right.
yes,
Yeah.
very much so.
Yeah.
But it was wonderful. it was great. And like they are so like, they're okay with making fools out of themselves. So I'm like watching that and the genetic counselor calls and she's like, just want to let you know, we've got some good news.
Oh.
And so I was like, oh my goodness. And I always listen to people's voices because that's what I do for a living is I was a litigator. So I would watch people's faces. I would watch their body language and I would, and I would always read the judge and see how everything was going to see how to respond. And then also when I'm talking to my clients, I'd like to know, like, are you like a big fat liar? So I have to like watch everything people are saying to me. Like, oh, my husband beat me, but I need to know, did he really? Are you lying to me? Or, certain things. So all of that, I've gotten really good at watching people.
I need some like reading people training.
Oh, I'm pretty good at it. And I feel like it's like also an energy thing. My friend Liz and I talk about that all the time. And she'll be like, are you picking up on what I'm picking up? I'm like, yes, I do pick up on that. Like, I do not like this person at all. So I say that to say, when I get that phone call, the moment I hear the genetic counselor's voice and she's like, hey there. And I'm like, oh, it's good news. Yes, it's good news. So that was great. And I got that news and it was a 4AA embryo, which is 72% like likelihood of success.
Okay.
So I like immediately looked that up because I'm not the kind of person who goes through this process and doesn't know what's happening. So I was like, okay, all right, we're good. And then the first one worked. So it was fantastic. And, she's everything to me, but.
Did y'all stay in Oregon, like, from like the retrieval and all of that to implantation, or did y'all go home and come back?
We went home.
Okay, yeah.
So we went home, basically had Christmas time because it was Thanksgiving. So we went through and did Christmas and let my body heal.
Yeah, is there a recommended time, from, egg retrieval to when they want to start, or like a resting period, or what's that kind of like, is there a recommended time period?
They don't really have one.
Okay.
It's all based on what you want to do.
Okay.
So for me, I just said, you know what, let's just, I don't want to do a fresh transfer because you could do a fresh transfer and I could have just stayed there.
And how long would that have been? Like a week
So,
or like a
well,
month?
they would wait for them to develop, and then 5 days later, I would have transferred at that moment.
So a week.
A fresh
Yeah.
transfer.
A fresh transfer, but I did a frozen transfer because I had researched and they had better chances of working. And I think
Yeah.
it's because your body's not going through the trauma of the egg retrieval. You get a chance to like chill, like breathe.
A little heal.
Yes. And so we went back on January 29th
Okay.
and had our transfer day that day. And I had to stay about 5 days that time. So we went, had the transfer. They made me do 2 days of bed rest. So we literally laid in the bed and watched Outlander.
That's nice.
And so I always tell people, my husband hates this. I always tell people, I'm not saying that Jamie Fraser got me pregnant, but like
Right.
he did.
That's real.
Because we were laying in the bed, chilling, watching Outlander. And then my best friend came from Seattle and stayed the night like in the hotel room next to us.
How much
Cute.
fun.
So we all sat around on the bed.
like a little
Sweet.
slumber party.
It was really fun. And we watched, it was like one of those baking shows,
Oh, yeah.
like Gumbo's Just Desserts or whatever. And because that makes me laugh so hard. And so they said that laughter is good for
okay.
transfers.
Oh, good.
We got our little
cute.
McDonald's fries and laid down in the bed and did that. And my husband actually, I sent him to this little shop in Oregon to get this little rainbow, little teether thing that I saw. I was like, it's so cute. Please go get that. It's like, good luck. And so he went and got that while me and Susie hung out. And then her husband was there too. So we all just sat around and then we watched TV, hung out together.
So cute.
I love that.
And then we went home.
yeah.
And actually we went to her house first and spent the night. And then we went home because she has 2 kids and I went to go see them. Came home and waited for the results.
Yeah.
And I am not one of those people who tests because I've only had 1 positive pregnancy test. And I started bleeding by 3 o'clock that day.
Yeah.
So
wow. Okay.
I never wanted to test ever again. And so like every other test I've ever done has been negative. So I was like, I'm not going to test at home. I never tested for it at all. I actually got the phone call. I was at Target that it worked. So I was in the baby section because I couldn't get any signal and I had to run and I look up and I'm crying in the baby section and
Yeah.
Wait, so why did they call? This is my last question about it, and then we need to move on, ladies. But why do we?
Mom, don't spoil our fun.
I know.
We're going to get there, but like we got to,
I know. I'm just saying. But why do? why did they call you? So like, if you the 2 weeks. And then you went in to do blood work, and then they called you. Is that what you mean?
Yeah, so you go in the 2 weeks on the day 9 is actually the day that my clinic would want me to go test. And so at day 9, I went to my local clinic, which was Dr. Long, because I still used him for monitoring.
Sure.
And so I went to go see him. He did my tests. And then the problem is that Oregon's 2 hours behind. So it was like 3 o'clock in the afternoon. And I'm like, what is happening?
Yeah.
But they always call, they make the pregnancy calls right at like around lunchtime in Oregon. So they called me and I like been waiting all day. Like,
Yeah.
I couldn't even focus. So I like spent the whole day with my mom and my law partner at the time, like running around. My husband's like working and, living his life. And I'm just sitting there like, oh. So it was a lot. But my mom was there. So she like sees me crying in the baby section and I'm like, it worked. And so my mom's super excited. We start buying all the baby stuff immediately. My law partner was like in the car about to come in to meet us. And so I went out there and
Because you knew
told
at that
her
point
how
it
to
was
go.
female too.
No, I didn't.
You didn't.
No.
But you know the other 2 are female.
I do because they're all the same. So we did a gender reveal and had a party because I know that they're so cliche and all that stuff. But you know what? I didn't get to have that. So I asked my doctor when we
What
got the
thing's
results.
being cliche?
You know.
Like,
know.
do your thing.
I was like, I want to have like the whole whatever.
Exactly.
So we like,
As you should.
I know. I went through hell to get this girl.
God damn it.
And I was like, you know what? I asked my doctor, I said, are they all the same? And he said, he asked me, do you want to know what the sex of the embryos are? And I said, if they're different, I want to know how many we have of each. If they're all the same, I don't want to know because we're going to do a gender reveal. And so he was like, they're all the same. I was like, what? So,
Wait, but not like they're triplets.
right. The embryo didn't split.
Okay.
There's 3 different embryos, yes.
They just look the same. But like, what do you mean they're the same?
So when you do the genetic testing, it tells you if it have X and Y or if it's, yeah.
With chromosomes.
Got it.
Yeah.
I was like, wouldn't
was
that,
not-
wouldn't that be funny if you had triplets that
I was also not good at science.
staggered years apart, you know? Like, I was like, is that how that works? I've never thought about it.
If
But no,
if
that
the
doesn't
embryo
make any
had
sense.
split.
It's not
So
like
they're,
freaking
they would be
clone.
fraternal.
Ridiculous.
Fraternal triplets.
So
No.
technically, yes, because they were all at the same time.
Right. So that's how they did it. So they tell you like what your beta numbers are, and then you test every 48 hours to find out again if they go up or go down. So they know whether or not you're miscarrying or if you're going to be able to keep the baby. And I actually started bleeding at 6 weeks and freaked out. And then it was like brown blood, and then all of a sudden it was like bright red at one point. And so I called my doctor, that doctor that is actually here, answered on a Sunday and told me to come in the next day to get an ultrasound. And so I went in, and that's when we heard the heartbeat for the first time. So he basically was like, you're fine. And then he showed me, because he could actually see I had a subchorionic hematoma, which is like a blood clot.
Yeah.
And he could see it. And he's like, it's right there. It's going to come out. He's like, it'll be fine.
Okay.
We'll give it like 2 weeks and it'll be gone. So like it didn't worry me as much, but I still was like, ugh.
Right. You're just that anticipation.
Yeah.
That is beautiful and amazing. And thank you for sharing all of that information.
Of course.
with
I mean,
us.
I shared all of it on my Instagram, my social media, because I wanted people to know. Like, I want people to understand, like, you don't have to do this by yourself.
Right.
And you need to know information, like the fact that I was having my eggs taken too early, and the fact that they blame women for them not knowing what's going on. And it's not that I don't think they mean to do that. Nobody means to do that, but that's just how it is.
It happens. Okay, let's take a break. And after that, I would love to get into the IVF fight in Alabama.
Hey, fellow Blue Dots, we would love for you to connect with us on social media. We're on Instagram at RaisedRedLivingBlue_pod and TikTok at RaisedRed_LivingBlue. Okay, back to the episode.
What was did you have like a watershed moment of when you're like, I'm thinking about running for office, or I feel like I need to, or like, this is my time? Kind of what was that process like for you, maybe internally, but also like in conversations like with your husband and your family?
Okay, so when the IVF decision came down in 2024, I had been doing, surrogacy work and IVF litigation, like just doing kind of the embryo donation, egg donation, sperm donation cases. And so...
What do those cases kind of look like?
Yeah.
Someone who knows nothing about the law has to pay for things to be done. When you talk about like, working with those cases, what are some like scenarios that people would be going through that you see?
So a lot of times in those cases, it's usually something like if a man and a woman, depends on whatever circumstance that causes their infertility. So it could be that her eggs are not, working. It could be his sperm's not working. So whatever it is, that if they need like a donor, usually you have to go through things like a psychological evaluation on both sides for people to understand, like, oh, you're giving up genetic material. You understand that this other person's going to become the parent. Do you trust them? Like, are you okay with not having, a relationship with that child? So they'll do like some psychological stuff, because the American Society for Reproductive Medicine controls all of this. And so they'll tell people, like, this is what you need to go through. You have to have a psych eval. You have to have medical evaluations to make sure that you don't have any communicable diseases. So no STDs.
Yeah.
And then, are you capable of even being a donor? Are you capable of even carrying a child? If you're doing a surrogacy type situation, like, is the surrogate capable of carrying a child? So there's like all different criteria from the American Society for Reproductive Medicine.
Right.
So they are one of the people who they control all of this. So does the FDA. And also all of the medical boards. So the FDA controls like the communicable, like all the disease testing and all that stuff.
Okay.
Or
now that makes more sense.
Yeah. They control all that. And then like the CDC, they have some stuff that they have their little hands in there too. That's also regulatory.
Yeah.
And then you also have all the attorneys, ethical boards and things, the medical boards, all of that.
Yeah.
So
Lots of hands,
lots of control, all this stuff that is controlling all of this and watching over it. Now, I say that to say, because I'm going to get to the whole IVF decision, because that's a huge issue, because they're saying that this is the wild, wild west. But it's not the wild, wild west, because we have a ton of people who are controlling all of this. But So in those cases, like they'll come to me and they'll say, hey, we've had our psychs done, or they'll say, we don't know where to go. And I send them to somebody that's local that I know will not charge them an arm and a leg and who is trained in the American Society of Reproductive Medicine's like guidelines. But they'll tell me, hey, I need a donor or whatever. And if they've already got one, we make sure that everything's done. Like they have a contract in place. They have their psych done. They have their medical done.
Right.
Then they get their contract that's done. They sign off on it, and then I'll send legal clearance over to the clinic after everything is done, so the clinic knows that they followed all of the guidelines for them to be able to treat them.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
So it's like, it's very complicated. A lot of times if there's an agency involved, like if there's an agency that does, they take donations and things like that, or a clinic that's involved, they'll reach out to me and say, hey, we've got these intended parents is what we call them.
Yes. Yes.
We have intended parents. We want you to, draft a contract for them. They've already talked to, they've already looked at all your stuff or, whatever, they've chosen you. Or they'll say, we want you to review on behalf of the surrogate or the donor. And so as long as everybody is involved, everybody has attorneys involved the entire time, everything's good to go. So with the donations, like an embryo donation, like if I didn't want to use my 2 embryos, I could donate them to another couple, but they would have to, as recipients, would have to do like a psychological and all that kind of stuff and, everything else. But we haven't gotten there yet.
Right.
Yeah. We used to call them snowflake adoptions, but then we were afraid with like the personhood stuff that's going on, like calling it an adoption kind of gives more weight to that. So we just call them, embryo donation now. But I say that to say, we handle those. That's basically like my bread and butter on after hours.
Okay.
So I handle those cases and make families, and it makes me so happy. But because of that, the whole fetal personhood thing has been really, really big for me.
Yes.
Because that has been a major issue. And I knew it was going to be a problem when the case came along. Like when it started kind of trickling down the court system, I knew it was going to be a big issue.
Will you give just a kind of like brief reminder of the case you're referring to?
So the LePage case is the big IVF case that everybody knows about, IVF shutting down in Alabama. Basically what happened is there was this clinic
In Mobile, right?
In Mobile that was attached to a hospital. A patient in the hospital kind of stumbled into the cryogenic nursery, which is what they called it, walked in there.
Feels like there should be some security here.
There was a janitor that left a door open on accident. That person goes and touches a cryogenic tank, picks it up, it burns their hands because it's frozen. It's like in all this gas and yeah. So I don't even know if it was a man or a woman. The patient drops it and destroys the embryos that are in there. There's 3 different couples that had embryos in that tank. So basically what happened after that is the court system came forward and they said,
I knew they were destroyed, but I didn't know all those details.
yes. And there's even more crazy details that are related. Like
Jesus
one of the
Christ.
couples that just now dropped the case, like back in January of this year, they had already agreed for the clinic to destroy their embryos. The clinic just hadn't done it yet.
What the fuck?
But they're still suing over it. So
Oh, that's some bullshit.
it really is.
That's
Like,
some bullshit.
nobody talks about that, but it's in there.
Yeah.
And then they're like, you don't even have standing to sue over this anymore. And they actually sent that to the Supreme Court of the United States, and the Supreme Court wouldn't even take it.
Yeah, well, fuck them.
Yeah.
Fuck
There it's
them.
at. So basically what happened is these judges all get together and they're like, how can we get fetal personhood in Alabama?
Fuck.
And
Because
so-
that's
Can you tell
all
us
they've been wanting.
who these judges are?
So there were, 9 justices. Jay Mitchell wrote the opinion. So Jay Mitchell was the main guy who wrote the opinion. And then he got enough concurrences, which is like agreements, to say that fetal personhood, was there, that an embryo is a child, basically. So he wrote the opinion. He has now since gotten off the Supreme Court. He's now running for Attorney General because he said he needs to stop DEI and the woke agenda, and that the Supreme Court was limiting him in that. So he clearly had an agenda. I mean, clearly. So then Greg Shaw, was one of the people who also commented on it, and he said, an embryo is a life to be protected no matter the location. So it doesn't matter if it's in a uterus. It doesn't matter if it's in a cryogenic tank. A life is a life to be protected. So
Another question. How many Supreme Court justices are there in the state of Alabama? And what is the demographic of them right now?
Oh, great question.
there's 9.
Okay.
At the time that this was written, they were all white.
Mostly
Mostly
male?
men. There were 2 women.
Okay.
All white, 2 women.
All conservative?
Oh yes. The Supreme Court has been pretty red since, I think Sue Bell Cobb was the last Democrat that was on it in 2008. I think she left. She retired from the bench after she got elected back in 2008.
And can you give us just brief like overview of what is the purpose of having a state Supreme Court? Just like in one sentence. Like, why does the Supreme Court exist?
So the Supreme Court, it's like a checks and balances, just like any other Supreme Court. So it's a checks and balances over, just like SCOTUS should be.
Yeah,
And used to be.
Yeah, right.
And as SCOTUS used to be. It's like a tiny little version of that.
Should be.
Yeah. So the Supreme Court is a checks and balances over our legislature and our executive branch. And right now, and for a very long time now, all of that has been very, very red.
Yes.
And so, Alabama is 40% blue. And that's at a minimum. I mean, we're not even talking about people who aren't registered to vote. Like, we're 40% blue. We should at least have 40% of the Supreme Court blue.
Yeah.
It should be. Because here's the thing is you don't moderate positions if you're just an echo chamber. And that's what kills me about the fact that we had all these justices making this decision and we're all pushing the same agenda forward. We had no checks and balances. There was one dissenting opinion. He still read, but his dissenting opinion was basically like, I don't care about the fetal personhood thing. Y'all are out, you're like usurping the authority of the legislature.
Yeah.
Like, you're creating law. You should be interpreting the law.
Okay.
Yes.
So that brings me to my next.
Hold on, can we repeat that again?
Yeah.
It is not their job to create law.
Correct.
It is their job to
It is their job to interpret the law. And
sort of like defend it, right?
well, yes,
That's
absolutely.
how I was taught, like as a kid growing up, that like a judge is there, not to be like the jury and not to be the attorney, but to be the one that's there basically like representing the law.
Yes.
That's like how I was
And
taught.
they even, not only that, what killed me about the whole opinion is that what you're looking at are conservative justices. They are usually the ones who have an originalist theory, like an originalist point of view. So what was the law when it was originally written?
Is that what I think sometimes I like say this incorrectly, or I've heard it a different way. Is that like what like some people refer to as a constitutionalist?
Kind of.
Okay.
Yes. So
Okay, let's not get down that rabbit trail.
yeah,
I'll ask
because the
later. Yeah.
originalist is more of like, what was the original language? And they were using a statute from 1872 to interpret what a child was.
Okay.
So wrongful death of a child, 1872, now applies to an embryo in an IVF case. How is that going with the original language? Because did they have IVF in 1872?
Fuck no.
So they were purposefully utilizing this case as a vehicle to move fetal personhood along, to control women.
Why? So can we talk briefly about so like, I remember when Roe was overturned, oftentimes people were like, oh, they're just like hateful Christians. And while personally, I do agree with that sentiment, I was like, I don't think that's what this is about. I think it's about money, right? Like, why it doesn't, like, I don't actually believe that like everyone is evil. I do believe a lot of us are greedy. And so why would the economy benefit from a lack of access to abortion? And so we didn't have that conversation until after it was overturned publicly. Some of us had that conversation, one-offs, but like on social media, you didn't see that stuff coming up then. So like, I'm curious, this is a little bit different, similar, but different. Why would it benefit the guy, Mitchell, to write that opinion? Because it's not, I don't buy that it's because of his strong moral standing. Like, that doesn't really make sense. And so like Democrats can fight and be like, they're so stupid all they want. It's not helpful. I think if we're going to combat that, then we needed to know what the actual motives are. And I always tend to think that it's financial, but I don't really always see.
Yeah.
And so I'm curious, like, why does he care about fetal personhood?
It's part of the whole 2025 thing, the Project 2025 thing. So if they can get fetal personhood, they can regulate women and pregnancies from the moment of conception. So the moment that a woman has unprotected sex, she is now owned by the state. So she may not be able to work. She may not be able to do certain things. I mean, at that point in time, she is owned by men. And so that's where they are. I mean, that's how they're using it to control women. In addition to that, there's a whole separate road that I would talk to y'all for hours about, but the adoption industry and how many white babies they need to substantiate a good adoption industry is insane. So I don't even want to go into that, but
We'll do that another time.
yeah, that whole
But even
portion,
just adding that sentence is helpful because it gives us enough insight to another motive why it would be helpful to not have access to.
I mean, they're going to use it for all kinds of things. They're going to use it to get rid of birth control. They're going to use it to probably take away a lot of rights from women when there already are. And that's a huge issue in Alabama. And they even say, like, in their opinion, like, this is the wild, wild west. Like, IVF is not regulated. No, IVF is regulated. It's very regulated. And so they
You just don't know what the fuck you're talking about.
Right, exactly. And it was an attack on IVF saying like, oh, this is a huge problem. Like we don't, they don't care about these babies. They're just throwing away embryos left and right when they're inconvenient. And so they even started looking into like Italy. And that's what killed me is they started looking into Italy. And Italy for a while made it so that you could only, I told you like the different numbers as like I was going through IVF. So in Italy, they said like you could only retrieve 3 eggs and then you would try to inseminate all of them and create, 3 embryos. And if they all were created, they'd put all those embryos in. So what happened is the women who couldn't create embryos just never got pregnant. And the women who could create 2, 3 embryos, they become pregnant with these super dangerous pregnancies. And so they found that it was more dangerous for the babies, more dangerous for the women.
Yes.
And after 10 years, they were like, this is unconstitutional. Oh, our bad. And so we had legislators in Alabama who were looking into that.
And it's like, that's not even the fucking same.
It doesn't even make any sense. And so and I went down there when the IVF decision came out with all the other women, like to go to talk to all the legislators. We talked to them, telling them our stories. I'm like crying in front of these people, telling them how I had these, egg retrievals with no medication. They listened, acted like they cared. And they would say things like, well, I care about women. I got a friend who did IVF or, whatever. And it's all like saying, I got a black friend or I got I don't hate women. I've got a wife. And so
I love my gay hairdresser.
Exactly. Exactly. And so that was like,
I feel like I just got an amen from you over there.
You did.
yeah, that's right.
So true.
But they didn't do anything. They didn't do anything. When they went out there, like April Weaver, I talked to her. She sat there and listened to me, acted like she cared, and then went in as somebody in the, the medical field is like, meh, whatever. Didn't say a thing. The only person who did was like Linda Coleman Madison. She did. She spoke up for us. And she was like, this is ridiculous. And there was some guy that was like, you got to determine when life begins. Do you want to tell me when life begins? That's not for you to determine, sir.
Right.
But that's the thing. Nobody wants to be the one to say that, oh, an embryo isn't a child.
Yeah.
Because
it cannot sustain life on its own.
Right.
Like that's the difference. Like it's not a child. Because
and they even talked about doing a law to fix that. And the law that they ended up coming out with said you are civilly and criminally immune from doing criminal or civil liability if you're going through IVF as a patient, as a doctor, or somebody who provides goods and services related to IVF. So now what happens is now all these patients who are spending $25,000, $50,000 to have IVF have no cause of action if some defective product comes down and destroys their embryos. So they've made it worse for these families. It's completely unconstitutional because no matter what, you have to change what they just did. They created this law saying that an embryo is a child.
Yeah.
And then they actually had in January of 2025 of this year, there was a motion to declare the law that fixed everything and made IVF legal again. They actually had that on the chopping block. Nobody knew about it. It was just sitting there pending in front of the court, but they settled it last minute. And so like at the end of February 2025, IVF was safe again because that law was not challenged anymore.
What was the law exactly?
It's the law that they passed that said that you cannot be civilly or criminally liable if you are a patient of IVF.
What you just said, sorry.
So so that goes away. IVF shuts down again.
Yeah.
And like, I didn't have adequate health care when I was going through IVF in 2020. I needed more.
Yeah.
And so now the people who couldn't leave the state, they're going to be stuck without IVF altogether. And they don't even realize it. That's the worst part.
Yeah.
Is what we're looking at is we had a political agenda that was being pushed with no one to stop it because we have an all red court. We just have an echo chamber that's just going to sit there over and over again and do whatever they want and push whatever political agenda they want through. And there's nothing we can do to fix it right now. There's no one to moderate it. No one to say, well, this is not right. Have you looked at the science behind this?
Yeah.
There's no one in there to say, you're going to destroy a chance, the only chance some people have at having a family.
Yeah.
Like, not everybody can afford to fly to Oregon. Not everybody can afford to even go to Atlanta. And it's already $25,000. Like, the access to adequate healthcare in Alabama is ridiculous.
Yeah.
And that's not just IVF. That trickles down to everything.
Right.
Hey, fellow Blue Dots, don't forget you can find all of our episodes on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and YouTube. Please hit that subscribe button, and we would love a review. Okay, now back to the episode.
What happened? What did you experience or what did you observe in that immediate aftermath of that 2024 ruling?
Oh,
Was
bless.
it 24?
Yeah.
Sorry, the time now.
No, it's blurry.
Yeah, so
It was just last year.
I referenced talking to somebody else about, and I said 2022.
yeah.
Like I was like, the IVF ruling that came out in 2022.
no, that was Roe v. Wade being overturned.
Right.
Yeah,
It's all a mess to me. It all feels like it's all been.
So what did you see with these clinics and closures, and were you having conversations with women, and what was some emotions? So what was that aftermath that you either observed or felt and experienced?
So the decision came out on a Friday. Nobody knew that it came out. Nobody really read it. And then all of a sudden, Monday morning, I'm getting phone calls from CNN, from the Washington Post, from clients who were saying, I'm supposed to have IVF in 2 days or 3 days, and my clinic's telling me they're about to have to shut down.
Yeah.
Clinics, they just stopped communicating with everybody because they're looking at this and they're like, what if we drop an embryo? What if an embryo doesn't take? What if there's a miscarriage?
Right.
What are we supposed to do?
Right.
We could go to jail.
Yeah.
And so they're all freaking out.
We're medical professionals. We don't interpret the law.
Right. And so they're all like,
because
what are we supposed to do?
because that's our job.
That's what kills me. And I'm like, you are turning the doctors into lawyers, and they can't do their jobs if they're doctors into if you're turning them into lawyers. And then you're turning the legislators into doctors. Or in this case, Tom Parker was a doctor, telling everybody this was the Wild Wild West. So he has no idea what these people are going through.
Yeah, exactly.
So to say this, it just is absurd. And so all these people are saying, okay, we could go to jail if something happens to these embryos. We have to take a step back. We have to close down our clinic.
Yes.
And then UAB closed down. And that, I think, is what really scared everybody, because
Yeah.
UAB stopped everything they were doing. They're a research hospital. They're terrified. And then, the clinic in Mobile had already shut down for a minute. And then the other clinic
Same one where this happened.
Yes.
Well, that
Yeah,
makes sense. Yeah, I mean,
well, maybe you need to take a break. But everybody else was like, we could go to jail, and we have to figure out what to do.
do you know roughly how many IVF clinics there are in Alabama?
At the time that the decision came down, I believe there were five or six.
Okay.
The problem is that when it comes to IVF clinics, there's two types. There's one that reports their results and how effective they are.
Okay.
And then there's the ones that don't. And so they're held to a different standard.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah. So what we're looking at now is the clinics that have to report. There was 5 of them.
Okay.
3 shut down.
Okay.
Yeah. So there's some
Any reopened?
No.
Okay.
No, and there's some that are satellite clinics that they have satellite offices. Like AFS has a satellite office in Montgomery and then one in Huntsville.
Okay.
And
what
then
does
there's
AFS stand for?
Alabama Fertility Specialists. And sometimes they just go with Alabama Fertility. They sign their stuff like Alabama Fertility.
Is that like the one
That's
in
what I
Homewood?
used. That's what I've been. Yeah. I never knew it was called AFS.
Okay, so it's the same one that's in Homewood.
Yes.
Yes.
Oh,
Because they
okay.
joined up with ART. So they actually combined. Those two
Merged.
clinics combined.
What does
Did
ART
they
stand for?
merge at that time, or before?
It was before that.
Okay.
Yeah.
What is ART?
Assisted reproductive technology at Brookwood or something like that.
Oh, gotcha. Okay.
Yeah,
okay.
and then so there's actually one clinic in Huntsville that if you call them, they will admittedly say, we only take the stereotypical American family. Means you have to be man, woman, married. No singles, no same sex.
Okay, so when the ruling came down, you said 5 in the state. We're down to 3.
Yeah.
Does that include UAB? Or would they be classified under something differently?
Yeah, it
Being
includes
associated?
UAB.
Okay.
Yeah. They also
Themes
all
for
stopped
that.
keeping their embryos in state.
So
So they
now they're
all ship their
stored
embryos
in.
out. And here's the thing.
And you have to pay for that.
You have to pay for that.
Yeah.
Even if your embryo is abnormal, you have to pay for your embryo to be shipped out of state.
Because they can't destroy it here.
Right.
Because they're murderers.
Yeah.
Okay.
And not only that, I had a lawyer friend of mine who does surrogacy cases with me. She had a divorce case where they had agreed they would destroy their embryos in their divorce matter. And the judge set aside the agreement and said, due to the new law, you can't destroy these embryos. And just,
What do they parent trap it?
yep.
Split it up? You get 2, you get 2.
So
I guess that's a good...
I mean, like, what else?
you don't get to decide if you get to be parents with your ex anymore.
Okay. Well, Ashleigh Dunham, week 1. Wow, this was great. And man, thank you so much. Everybody stay tuned. We have Ashleigh Dunham for more. And please tune in again next week to hear more about her race and her campaign and all of that good stuff for us Democrats here in Alabama.
Politics of fear and hate are wrong. We love you and politics of
But America,
love are right.
we are not going back.